In this video, I'm going to go through a tutorial that I have assigned in as one of my. It's a tutorial which is a subsection of an assignment, this jQuery assignment, and this assignment follows the Google App Engine assignment. In this previous assignment, we set up a Google App Engine Java project, which we will use in this class to serve static content. And now in this section, what we're going to do, in this assignment rather, there are two Code Academy tutorials. That's what I have right now. I may actually modify these. And those are pretty straightforward to go through on your own. But then I have I'm building another list of tutorials, and I'm in the process of creating a video walkthrough of these tutorials. So the first tutorial, the one that I'm going to cover right now, is this one here, how jQuery works. Okay, so what I've done there is on my desktop I have this folder with the assets that I need in this to carry out the exercises in this course. There's a workspace folder, there's an Eclipse folder, and the downloads folder is just a record of things that I've downloaded already. As you can see, I've downloaded this jQuery mobile. That's for a future assignment. And so I went into Eclipse and I started up Eclipse here. And that is now running, and there it is. And actually what I'll do is I'm going to go through this whole process again. So let me delete this project. So you can see, to delete a project, let me just explain this to you so that you can see what's going on here. Here is the 322 folder that I'm working in. This is the workspace folder. This is a folder that's consists of a collection of projects. It also has this .metadata folder. This is kind of settings that are applicable to all projects that are in this workspace. I have one project in this workspace. That's why we see a single folder here, and you can see this is a configuration file called .project. You can actually look at that. It's an XML file, and it has basically some configuration in it that tells Eclipse about the project. This is the name of the project. This is elements to what's called the build command. This is the build spec, but normally we don't modify these configuration files directly. What we do instead is modify them by setting various settings in the Eclipse interface directly. This is another configuration file. This contains the class path. This is very important. And once again, we don't normally access this directly like this in the file system. We modify the contents of this file generally using the Eclipse interface. But it is possible to go in here, see what's going on, and actually to make changes as well. So sometimes that's helpful, but not normally. And you can see these are in Java you have this concept of a class path. It's when your program runs in the Java virtual machine and you refer to a new class, a class that hasn't been used yet in the execution of your program. So a new class is being referred to. And what the Java virtual machine does at that point is that it searches the file system to find that the definition of the class, and then it loads the class definition. It initializes the class by executing its static initialization code, if there is any. And then from that point on, the class is available. You can instantiate the class, or you can call static functions in the class, or access static attributes. So that's what's going on there, and this class path XML file, this is the root of the file, is called Classpath, and these are Classpath entries. Each of these Classpath entries adds a new sort of search path that the Java virtual machine will search through when it tries to resolve a reference to a new class that it hasn't been loaded in the JVM yet, the Java Virtual Machine. So that's what's going on there. Here's a folder of additional configuration, and you can see in here that these files are particular to the Google plugin. So these are not native to Eclipse. When you install one of the Eclipse distributions, you don't get these configuration files directly. These configuration files get generated when you install the Google plugin. And just quickly to take a look at what those look like, you'll see, various settings. Okay, war source directory. That's the name of the war folder. You could actually change the name of that folder to something else. But I want to show you now that we can delete projects, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to delete this project. And this is currently frequently overlooked. This checkbox right here, I'm going to check that. Delete project contents on disk cannot be undone. So if this is unchecked, that means it just removes the presence of this project folder from the workspace. And although it still sits there in the workspace as a folder, but let's also delete that as well. Typically that's what you want to do. So this is the project location. As you can see, this is the folder inside the workspace. Let's go ahead and delete that. And that's gone there. Now let's verify that that's missing. So there it is, in fact, that's gone. And let's go ahead and create a new project. Although, I didn't actually have to do this. This is part of the previous exercise, but it's helpful to go over this again and to practice this. So I encourage you, even though you have an existing project, you might want to go through the exercise of recreating it. So the project name, I'm going to call this, let's call it CS USB DT 322. That's also the name that I use when I published a project to the Google App Engine site. And the package, I'll just call it CSC 322. And that doesn't matter too much to us because we're not actually, this is for creating class files that run on server side, and we're not going to be doing that in this course. So this, we don't want to use the Google Web Toolkit, so we'll take that off. And we do want to use the Google App Engine. So we'll leave that on. I'll click Finish. And there it is. So basically we recreated the thing that we deleted. So these are the folders. By the way, this is the Package Explorer. This gives a logical view, not necessarily the physical view of how the project is organized. This is the logical view of the project. Not all folders and files are shown. Some of the folders and files are virtual. For instance, when I expand this, it looks like it's a folder. This looks like it's a folder with subfolders in it, but those in fact are just constructs there. They don't correspond physically to folders in the file system. So this is the web application archive. This is where we're going to work. So here's the index.html file here. This is where we drop the static content. Make sure you don't put the static content in WebINF. This is for configuration. And I don't think we're going to be using that, so I'll just close that out. But this is required. You need to leave it in there. And this is the icon that shows up. Let me show you that. See this little lock right there? That's the icon that would that's rendered because of this here. So I think we can look at that. And Windows Photo Viewer. So there to see that App Engine. This is the icon. So you can see it's a pretty low resolution because it sits inside that location box right here. That's that lock right there. All right, so here's that index file, and then you can see here it's Hello App Engine, and I'll just change that to Hello CSE 322, and this is a link to a servlet And in fact, we're not really going to use the servlet. So I'm going to take that servlet out because we don't need it. And this is optional. You don't have to do this, but you can. This is an interface. I don't normally use this. And let's take a look here. This is that servlet. We don't need that, so I'll try deleting it here. I'll remove that. This is the servlet mapping, and we're not going to use that one. Let me remove that. And this is the welcome file list. This is good. Index.html is your default file that gets served if a request comes in for the top level resource. And this is a servlet element, and this is the some sort of a this provides a service that that helps to emulate the Google App Engine environment. We'll leave that there, although it's probably not necessary. This is the service provider interface. I'm not quite sure what that's for, but I'm going to just leave it in there. So you can see the asterisk here. It means I didn't save. I'm going to go ahead and save. Close that out. Now, because we unconfigured the servlet, so well, we don't really need this. We don't need this servlet class anymore. We don't call it. So I'm going to take that out and just delete that out there. Okay. It's meta-inf. Yeah, you know, this configuration. Probably want to leave it there because App Engine may look for this, even though we're not going to rely on those things. All right, the rest of it we'll leave alone. This index, we modified this. It's hello CSE 322. This link no longer works, but let's leave that in there. In fact, this whole lesson is going to be about hello jQuery. I'm going to call that hello jQuery. Okay. All right. Save that. Let's see if we can view that. So I'm going to right-click the project folder and do Run as Web Application. Look down here at the console, and you can see that things are starting normally. Here's the URL that we can use to access this running instance. Just copy that, and let's go ahead and paste that in the browser and hit go. And there it is, hello jQuery. This is the link that doesn't work, right? So that's no good. Hello jQuery, that's what we have in there. All right, so that is running. Now that's just preliminaries. Now let's dive into this jQuery. So I'm gonna create a video walkthrough of this, how jQuery works. Now let's go ahead and look at that. Here's the jQuery website, and as you can see, we've dropped into one of the tutorials. And this is kind of a getting started tutorial, and let's go ahead and just do it. So they're giving us some test code here, and let's start by creating this, and I'll show you the key elements here. There's a link here. This loads the jQuery script. And I'm going to drop that in there. They do it in the body element, so I don't know why they put it in there. I mean, normally it's put in the head, but I think it's okay in the body. If you look at the HTML5 boilerplate code, which we're covering later in the class, that they put the script loading at the very bottom of the document. And I think that's an interesting convention. So, but we can, I guess we can follow this. Let's go ahead and put this in there. Let's grab that, and in fact, we'll put it here right inside this this body element. Oh, that's not normally the place I would put it. So I'm going to take it out and just stick it inside the head section there. And this title is hello jQuery. I'm going to line that up with my H1 tag. All right. I think I'll leave these settings as they are. It's kind of like this is Google's boilerplate for App Engine projects, right? This comment in here, and this is the Doctype here. This is all a comment which explains. This is all a comment which explains why this Doctype element is being used. And there's different strategies. This is not an HTML5 Doctype. So this is an older form, 4.01 transitional. This is widely supported and correctly kind of rendered by browsers. I think that's the reason why it's being used as a template by Google here in this case. But there are other possible templates, so we're going to be looking at some of those later. As you can see on a jQuery website, they use a different thing. This is an HTML5 style Doctype declaration. You just, exclamation point, Doctype. I think that normally see that in uppercase, but I guess lowercase works as well. And then just the HTML symbol here, and this is understood to be an HTML5 document with this declaration. All right, let's, and it is a much simpler, you know what, let me just go ahead and do that. It is much simpler to look at that, and it works fine in the context that we're working in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And let me put that right in like that. Okay, great. And all right, let's go to the next one. So, this is a reference to the library. So they're loading the library, but now we need to get a copy of the library, which is done here. This is the download page. And you can read about this. You can refer to jQuery through what's called a content distribution network of some host. Google provides jQuery to web applications, Microsoft, and jQuery itself. Those are three sources to load jQuery if you don't want to distribute it through your own website. But it's actually more, I've read some articles about this, and I believe it's more efficient not to use these CDN hosted versions of jQuery. It's faster in general if you provide the library directly through your own website. This is what I've read. I don't know if I haven't verified it, but it does actually down here when we download jQuery to put in your own local web app, that they do mention here that this is the recommended version of jQuery to use for your applications. And I don't know if it's the recommendation. I don't know if they're recommending this as an approach, but let's see. And the minified versions, you can get two different. You can get minified or uncompressed. Uncompressed is if you want to read the source code. Let's get the minified version. I'm going to right-click on that link. I'm going to save the link as. It's going to pop up here, and I'm going to drop it right in that project. So let's see. I'm going to go to my desktop, 322, workspace, CSUSB DT 322. I'm going to go into the war folder, and I'm going to drop it right in there. There it is. Now, if you go to Eclipse to see that, you won't see it immediately. You need to do a refresh. You have to tell Eclipse to resync itself with the file system. So I'm going to right-click the folder and go to, I have to find it in here. It's refresh. There it is, right there. Refresh. The hotkey is F5. Go ahead and refresh. And there we see it's now appearing. If you open that up, you'll see it's minified, so it's hard to read. See, the variable names are one letter. Things are made small, and that's so it's hard to. It's all compressed into one line with no spaces. So that's not for reading, but it does cut down on the bandwidth consumption by being as small as possible. So let's go ahead and the other thing that I want to mention here is that that this name, I'm gonna copy this name here. Let me see, can I copy this thing? I'm gonna do rename, where is it? Refactor, rename, but I'm not actually going to rename it. I'm just doing that so I can copy the name, that's all. So I'm going to cancel that. I don't need to rename that. But here, that this reference to the library has to match with what we have there. So I'm going to paste that in. Okay, now it'll locate this. Here we go. All right, let's go back to the tutorial. And so that's that's downloading jQuery. This is done. And then it talks about this, when the web page loads, you want some JavaScript, to run as part of the initialization process for the web page. Before the user interacts with the web page, you want to execute some JavaScript. And the problem there is you don't want to execute your JavaScript too early. And you can execute your JavaScript very early before the document is constructed, before all the elements in your document are constructed. So you want to delay the running of your initialization code until you know that the document object model has been kind of in place. Maybe the browser hasn't rendered the web page yet, so you still have a chance to insert your own HTML elements in the document. You can modify the document, set CSS properties, and so on before the browser does an initial rendering. So jQuery, as well as all the other JavaScript libraries, or a lot of the other JavaScript libraries, they give you this ideal point at which your initialization code should run. This is an example of a non-ideal approach to running initialization code. So this alert function using this may run too early. Of course, it doesn't matter here. This code does not depend on the document being constructed and accessible through script. But if you did have script in here that tried to find an element or add an element to the document, then this would be this approach wouldn't work, depending on where you inserted this actually. So a safer way to do it is to use this right here, and so they show this to you. It's called a ready event. You want to register a callback function with the ready event, and that's meant to go right in here. This is that script element that's for your code, and let's just stick that right in there. And I'm using spaces here instead of tabs. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Here is this is the document object. That's a pre-existing object that the browser supply, the script. And this, we're passing that object into a call to jQuery. So this represents a function, and the basic jQuery function. And it does all kinds of things. It's like a Swiss Army knife for your scripting. And this thing returns a wrapper around the browser's document object. So it modifies the behavior of that pre-existing document object by wrapping that object with additional functionality. And one of the things that it adds is a ready function. And that ready function, it's a registration function. You call it to register a callback function. And so you're telling jQuery, call me when my initialization code should run. And here's the function that does that. So this is the alert right here. So this would be, you could put the alert in here, for instance. You could say, I'm initializing. I'm initializing, like that. You can see I escaped the apostrophe here. Another convenient way to do this, by the way, is just use double quotes here, and then you don't need to escape the apostrophe in that case. It's easier to read. All right, let's go ahead and run that and go back to our browser, and let's reload. There it is. I'm initializing. There we go. So looks good. Now in the tutorial, it's showing something here. This is they're showing some alternative, some potential initialization code. Let's take a look at this. So I'll go back to here, and let's drop that in here. Instead of the alert, let's execute this code right here. And let me, can I mix tabs in here? Maybe I want to do, yeah, there we go. I'll do 3 spaces. It's an alert, but you see the alert function is not, Let me see, is that right? Oh yeah, so that's a little tricky actually. So now this function, this is called an anonymous function, doesn't have a name. We use it where we define it. This is the opening brace of the function. This is the closing brace of the function. I'm sorry, that's the closing brace of the function. And this is the closing parenthesis to the call to the ready method here. And so these lines in here comprise the function definition. Now this function doesn't run when the ready event occurs. When the ready event occurs, this function is in fact defined. No, I'm sorry. This function runs when the ready event occurs. That's correct. This function runs when the ready event occurs. It's this inner function here that does not run. This is part of another function definition that's being passed into this this click function, which is another registration method. So we're registering a click handler with all elements that have an A tag, all A elements. And that's called an anchor element. All anchor elements will have this event handler invoked when the element is clicked. Let's take a look at that. Now, for this to work, we need to have an anchor element in the page. So let's go ahead and add that. And I'm going to, let me just put it right here. I'll go A, and I'll do href equals, and let's go ahead and do this. And I'll put in a link to Google here. And let's see what happens here. Let's go ahead and refresh that. All right, what is that link? Do I have? Let me get rid of that thing. Oh, here it is right there. So we already actually had a link. So I'm going to take this one out. Let's go with their example. They already had an anchor element defined here, and I didn't quite see it. And like they are doing the same thing that you see in the HTML5 boilerplate code, which is to place the script definitions in the body element following the HTML. So that seems to be perhaps a best practice at this point. I'm going to head and refresh that. So this goes to the Jquery website. Now if I click this, see the event handler is running. See, thanks for visiting. So when I click that, see, that means there's been a click event on this anchor element. That means it's going to execute this function when it gets clicked. And what does this function do? Well, the function takes an event, which is ignored, and the function simply invokes this alert. So it says, thanks for visiting. Now watch what happens. This is an anchor element. It is a link. So when we clear the alert, we're going to follow the link. So we go to the Jquery website. And maybe that's not what we want to do. So the way to prevent the execution of that sort of the default behavior of a click event on a link, what we do is we use this function, this Jquery function called prevent default, and we call that on the event object gets passed into us. And let me copy both lines. Actually, they modified this alert as well. Let's see, let's paste that right in there. And let's take a look here. So it's a new message. As you can see, the link no longer took you to jquery.com. All right, good. So after this alert runs, see, it actually is a blocking call. So we block on the alert when the execution enters this event handler. We call alert. Alert is a blocking call, so that thread of execution pauses and waits for the user to click on that OK button, and then the next line executes, which is to invoke this prevent default. It's going to be on the event object that got passed into the callback. So that's what halts the propagation of the event to other handlers. So our handler gets priority, and then we terminate propagation of the event to all other registered handlers with this function. I'm going to save it. See this asterisk, you got to pay attention to whether your file is saved or not. That's a common mistake. And let's go ahead and check that. Alright, now this has been modified. I'm going to left click. As you can see, the link no longer took you. Yeah, it's past tense, but there it is. See, we killed it there. Alright, let's keep moving. And here's some kind of as a complete example. Well, like here they're using, look at this tag here refers to the jQuery library that's available through this Google APIs system. So this shows you how you can use Google. And so, well, I'm not going to demonstrate that. But that's convenient. Let's see. Let's take a look at this now. And a common task is adding or removing a class. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So now they have this. They're adding a style element here. Let's take a look at that. Now, style elements go in the head section. I don't know if they work outside the head section, but they certainly work in the head section. I'm going to line that up and just get this, clean this up. There we go. So we have this style element right here. And this is the whole block. And I put it, once again, I put it inside this head element, or the head section. The HTML file has got a head element and a body element here. So there's two top level elements under HTML. And inside here we have the CSS style element, and this refers to the anchor elements in the document. .test, that means all anchor elements that have a .test class, that their font weight should be bold. So let's take a look at that. That's I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to put a little break right there. Let's do that. And let's put, there's two jQuery links. One of them has this class attribute set to test. See, it's a.test, so it's going to match against this. And let's take a look at that. See, this is the one that's bold. That's the one that has that class setting. This is the one that's not bold. All right, let's see. I'm kind of deviating a little bit here. Oh, look at this. So we're adding the class. We can do this in script. We can add the class in script. That's the whole point of this section of the tutorial. So in fact, let's take a look at that. That when our initialization code runs, that what we can do is add the test class to all anchor elements. So this thing here, that's the string that's getting passed into the jQuery function, is a CSS selector, and that's going to, this selector matches against all anchor elements in the document, and for each element in the document we're going to add the class test. So we manually added the test class here to this element, but now we're going to redundantly add it again to this element, but then in the second anchor element we're going to also add that test dynamically at initialization time. Well, let's go ahead and save that and test it. There it is. Now they're both bold. And you know, one thing that's a good habit to get into is to turn on your Javascript Console, or whatever it's called in the browser that you're using. And you can see in here that you know, where things are. And now look at this. This element here is highlighted in the document, and down here you see the classes test, the second element, the classes test as well. And this is showing you how it was, you know, the result of being added dynamically. So we see the result here. That's great. So if you look at sources, maybe it's not in, I'm not sure how to look at that. These are the elements, the current elements. Look at this. If I right click here and I do view page source, look at this. This element does not have the test class in here, because this is the page source. This is the source. This is the source code that was loaded, that was retrieved from the web server, not the result of executing our script. So that's what it looks like when it's first retrieved. So once again, when we do view source here is different than when we examine the elements using, you know, this tab pane here. It shows us the result of, you know, of the script that's running. So this gives us a dynamic view of the document, whereas the view source up here gives us the original kind of static content that we retrieved and had not yet processed. All right, let's and then you can remove classes. Look at this. So, you know, this let's take a look at this. This is to remove the classes. So I'm going to do a little test here. Watch this. We're going to add this class test here, and then instead of this alert, watch what happens when we click the element. Let's remove the test class from all anchor elements in a document, and we'll prevent the, you know, the following of the link here. So here we remove this test class. So with the test class in there, everything is bold. But when we click one of the links, that it will remove the test class, so we shouldn't see the links as bold anymore after the click. Let's test that. And remember, you need to refresh. Everything is bold, all right? But when I click this, it should become non-bold. There it is. And as well, the default following things, as you can see, it's not doing anything now because we're still executing the same code. We're calling remove class every time we click this, but remove, it's already been removed. There's no class to remove at this point. All right, let's continue on. And I'm trying to keep this video short, but it's I guess I'm long-winded here. I just keep talking. Special effects, and let's take a look at this. This is this will hide. Look at this. So when you click, this is an interesting one. When you click the A tag, the A element rather, it'll prevent the propagation of the event to other handlers, and then it'll invoke this hide function with the parameter passed in as slow. So it should, I'm just guessing that the thing is going to slowly disappear. Well, it says it right here. It'll slowly disappear. Let's see if that works. So let's put it, and you know, he put it after. Take that out. He put it after this prevent default, and why? I don't think it matters. We'll try it both ways. All right, this is slow, and I'm going to simplify things. I'm going to take this one out. So we dynamically add the class here. On the click event, we're going to hide the link. All right, let's take a look at that. You know what? I'm going to put this old link back in there because I want to show you that only the event. Only the A tag that was clicked is the one that will be hidden. That's what this refers to, by the way. This, when this event comes in, okay, this refers to the element that generated the event. And when we pass that reference to that element into the jQuery function, that gives us the jQuery wrapper around that anchor element. And that wrapper has a hide function that we can call. And that hide function, of course, has an argument that lets us modify or configure how the animation is going to run. Let's save this, and let's watch this. I'm going to load this. Now I'll click this one first, and there it was. And now we can do the same up here as well. See, it goes away. I wonder, can we still click these? See, they're hidden. I can't see them anymore. But look down here. Look at this. Here's the anchor element, and you'll see that the class is still test. But look at the style. The style attribute has been added, and a display property is set to null, and the overflow property is set to hidden. And you know, I display none. That means, of course, it's not being rendered in the page. And overflow hidden, I don't know what this parameter does. You have to look that up in a documentation that explains CSS. These are CSS style rules, and this particular style rule here I'm not familiar with, but it has to do with I'm guessing it has to do with the way the document is laid out. Once again, that would be the sort of the intelligent default, I suppose. All right, so let's go back to the tutorial and callbacks and functions. We've been talking about this already. This is a callback with no arguments. Let me pause for a second and read this so I can not spend too much time just all right, I read through this. This is interesting and important, but you know, it's just written in the abstract. There's no concrete runnable example to talk about or look at. And rather than spending the time right now to create that, I'm just going to skip over this. Of course, you might want to read this, but wouldn't get hung up on it too much. Because once again, it's got example code in there, but it's not in a runnable form, so it's a little hard to test. So that's going to be it for this this particular tutorial, except one more thing, and that is just to show you that we're going to deploy this. This is the other thing that I want you to do in this exercise. So I'm going to go down to Google here, and let's say I'm going to deploy to App Engine. And doesn't have a CSUSB DT322 does not have an application ID. Well, that means click the project settings link to set it below. Here it is, App Engine Project Settings. And the application ID is CSUSB DT322. Now you'll need to select your own unique application ID. This is something that you did in the previous exercise. So I'm just I'm redoing the previous exercise. You will already have this set up. Now let's go ahead and see if that works. I might need a password. No, it looks good. All right, that's working. All right, one last thing is to verify that that's been uploaded. Also, it's not the end of the assignment. This is just one tutorial out of the assignment. You need to do the other tutorials, and I haven't decided how many yet. Looks like it's checking here, and I don't see any error messages. That's good. Things are running nicely. New version is ready. Is ready to start serving. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And let me find my app. It's csusbdt322.appspot.com. There's the jQuery. I click, it disappears. I click, it disappears. So now we are in fact published here. That is how jQuery works. I will now insert a link to this video walkthrough, and I'll continue building out the rest of this exercise.